So somebody did something here, but he's still an African ruler. Now behind us is the famous Rosetta Stone. This is what we showed earlier. And this stone was found in 1799. This is the trilingual text. What kind of text is this again on the top? Hieroglyphs. This is Demotic, and this is Greek. Oh, excellent. You passed the test. All right, so these are the three levels. And so this is the text in the same message. This is a text actually from about 196 BC. It's a trilingual text from a couple thousand years ago, written in three languages, found in 1799. And this is called the Rosetta Stone because it was found in Rosetta, Egypt. And so it's found at that site. And it is one of the most important texts because it helped to crack the code. Champollion was able to use this tablet here because they knew Greek. They knew a little bit of Demotic, but they mainly knew Greek. But because they knew Greek, and this is the same language in Greek, Demotic, and Medu Neter, they can now match the symbols up. And that's how the language was cracked in 1822. That's the year in which they can understand the language, yes. That's what they're doing. Type of depiction of some scene from Egypt, apparently. And it is just a misrepresentation in every way of how the people looked. Here you have a public display of a white man and a white woman misrepresenting the culture of ancient Kemet or ancient Egypt as they apparently are talking about some kind of ritual, but it has nothing to do with evidence. It has nothing to do with reality. It has to do with the fake and phony presentation of how the people looked and what their temperament might have been. You're not going to have any man screaming out like this in some madness. You know, this is so this is the kind of falsification we have to be careful about.
Dirty hands, like mere menials.
Lies and misdemeanors. Liar.
Oh, sir.
Liar.
I will open it to you that we had to wander through a land plunged into chaos.
Lies.
Akhenaten. This man Akhenaten
Was a black man.
They brought Egypt down to the depths. Enemies massed on her borders. The Canaanites, the Hittites, the powerful. He and his queen Nefertiti, who took to herself a new name and become co-ruler of Egypt alongside the Pharaoh.
Lies!
This was evil. This was wicked.
Because the BBC and Discovery Channel, they have a version very similar to this, where all of the images of the royal family members, where all of the high priests, where all of the citizens are usually depicted as white and light-skinned, other than the hard laborers. Those that involve in hard labor and a lot of physical work, they seem to be the Nubians, the ones that are at the lowest level in society. This is not how things were, but that's how they are portrayed by the BBC and the Discovery Channel and these news outlets because of the outrageous propaganda. So this is ridiculous to have this kind of nonsense. No one in the world can justify these individuals portraying themselves as ancient people from Kemet. If they want to portray Rome or Greece, do that. But to do that here is the most outrageous insult to the intelligence of people around the world who've come to see an authentic exhibit, but coming in they have to be inundated with unbelievable propaganda. Okay, this is the tomb of In Ren Ptah, the great official, and we can see him sitting on the throne with his staff of authority and what's maybe a papyrus scroll. But one of the things I wanted to point out is this phenomenon of the dark legs, colorless face. And one thing I neglected to point out is that you see the middle figure here. You notice this dark coloration, which is consistent with all the other images of these men as they are in procession to the right. But notice the central figure. Notice how a modern museum official have reconstructed his face. As you can see that this is light and white and is not natural at all. If you look closely at the nose, it has been recarved from the top of the nose and the bottom, and to give it a point to it, an aquiline appearance. And this face has nothing to do with how the original figures would have, the figure would have looked like. If you look at every one of these other images, they have the fleshy African nose and nostril, which is obvious for anybody that has even close to 20/20 vision. Look at the coloration of the body and the face. In this one, look how unnaturally white it is by people who have deliberately de-Africanized and demelanized this image and gave him a pointed, unnatural, and completely absurd look. This is the kind of thing that takes place after discovery. It can't be any more obvious than this. There's nothing natural could have brought about this radical racial facial change other than someone who's engaged in deliberate fraud and deceit. That's exactly what we have here, and this is very common. And notice that the conspirators here, they didn't change the image of the men on the left or the men on the right. They didn't bother them. The average person is going to look at this and see the great official, and they're going to look, what, front and center. Front and center, and that's where you see the fraud and the phony activity that goes on behind the scenes. This is what we're dealing with here, is a deliberate falsification of evidence by museum officials, not by somebody in antiquity. No one in antiquity would have any motive to alter image. They're not concerned about that. If they went to destroy something, they destroy the whole scene. They don't carefully change facial features and erase the melanin content. So when you come here, point that out to people who have a fantasy that black people are just paranoid. It's not paranoid. This is the obvious fact. Sekhmet represents a lioness, a very fierce lioness. So Sekhmet is the deity that carried out the will of Ra, the great deity Ra. So there's a great text called The Destruction of Mankind, where people were mad at Ra because they felt he was an old ruler. So because Ra got mad at the people, it was Sekhmet that went about destroying people on the earth. But nevertheless, her name, Sekhmet, means the powerful. That's what her name means, literally, the powerful one. And images of Sekhmet would line temples. Many, many temples, you see images of Sekhmet. If you don't see any other images, you'll see an image of Sekhmet in the temple. She's very, very prominent, very, very powerful. So when you see images of her, this is one of the most powerful images, feminine images that you can find. And in the Egyptian Museum in Rome, this is the place that I recall seeing the largest number of Sekhmet statues. I mean, they just have tons of them. So this is a very, very powerful figure, and she was also associated with the medical arts as well, with health, so that Sekhmet would be associated with childbirth and with health. So physicians would work with and consult Sekhmet because of her wisdom and her power of healing. So she had many roles, but her role of being a powerful one that would carry forth different orders and working in tangent with Ra, and also with childbirth and healing. But Sekhmet is very, very powerful. So I didn't mean to pass this, but it was a lot to show. But this is very, very typical of the images of Sekhmet.